What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. The Catch Cup is here, and honestly, I don't like this meta too much because I never build the hard meta Pokemon for it. I know there's a lot of things I could be building right now to make sure that I'd have a bit of a better time, but because I already have a lot of Pokemon built, normally I just use Pokemon that I built in this season naturally. And I mean, I do have a pretty meta team here. Shadow Caesar, very good Pokemon. Dusclops as well, one of the best in the game. And Shadow Giratina, I'm sure everyone has that. After Giovanni here in this last rotation, people want to use this Pokemon. So, I mean, it's just what Pokemon I have. I have Regidrago, Komodo, a lot of Dragon types, I guess. Aegis/2, not exactly the best Pokemon out there. Honestly, that's about it here for my bench. I guess Toedscruel, another cool pick. But I don't have a lot of options, so I feel like this is about the best team that I can make. And I think for all intents and purposes, it's about one of the best teams you really can make here in this meta. So let's get into the battles and see what this team can do. Alright, let's jump right on into it here. We're going to see Shadow Caesar as our lead up against the Galarian Corsola, a fairly neutral matchup. I know we have Night Slash as well as a lot of Bullet Punch damage, but since Shadow Caesar is so squishy, we're going to take a lot of damage ourselves from these Astonishes, as well as potentially from Nightshades. Night Slash coming through, our opponent will opt to let it go, actually doing quite a bit of damage into them. And at this point, I'm going to shield. I think you always have to shield a Shadow Caesar, especially seeing our backline doesn't want to see this Ghost-type damage either. We shield in, comes instantly with a Shadow Talonflame. Good thing we swapped out there. Our opponent trying out one of the new Shadows here themselves in this meta. I'm going to go for the Dragon Claw, try to get as much Shadow Claw damage as well as I can into them. Let's see if we get a shield. They do end up shielding, and they throw an alignment, making sure that they can get the next move, or the next shield rather, for me, before my next Dragon Claw will be thrown. Fly comes through, it does draw a shield. 2 more Shadow Claws to a Dragon Claw. At this point, I'm 3 more Shadow Claws away from my next attack. They have another Fly loaded right now, so no matter what, I know they're going to knock out our Giratina before I'm able to reach a move. Very good counting by them. They actually go for the Overfarm. They're now just 1 more Incinerate away from another Fly, but luckily I think I have enough energy on my Shadow Caesar. I can bring it back in, go for 1 Bullet Punch, not even take that Incinerate, saying how clunky of a move it is, and then go for the Night Slash. In comes the attack here. Our opponent at this point will get knocked out, but I don't know what's in the backline at this point. Shadow Caesar is pretty low, Dusclops is very healthy in the backline, and we see Gastrodon come in. I can go for the Trailblaze here. Our opponent tries to catch, but I see it coming. Instead, I swap into my Dusclops. I bank a Trailblaze in the backline, which should easily one-shot that Gastrodon. As long as we don't one-turn lag later on this game, it's going to be the big question here. Can we end up getting that move off? In theory, we're supposed to be able to, but this game doesn't always work rather like it should. So we're going to go for the Shadow Punch. Our opponent is going to be defenseless to this attack, but it doesn't really knock him out, right? It's not the strongest move in the game. They're going to go for the CMP on the Earth Power. I think at this point they have an Earth Power plus a Body Slam loaded, so if we do get a one-turn lag on our Shadow Caesar, then that is not great news for us. In comes our Caesar, no one-turn lag. Luckily, Trailblaze will end up knocking out the Gastrodon. Shadow Caesar able to close out the game here in the back. In comes that Trailblaze, down goes the Gastrodon. GG there to our opponent. Alright, next game, Shadow Caesar up against a Regidrago. Fantastic lead matchup. Let's see what our opponent's going to do. They instantly swap out to actually a second Dragon type. I guess our opponent also just having fun here in the Catch Cup, trying to use the Pokemon they already have built. ABA Dragon, not exactly the most recommended team. I've seen quite a few fairy types in this meta. Pokemon like Azumarill, Dedenne, I've even seen some Wigglytuff here too, so, you know, that could be a bit of a risky team for them, but at this point, we are going to go for the Night Slash, Chip and Dip, go into our own Giratina, but since they have so much energy, they actually do reach a second Dragon Claw before I can reach mine. I could have gone for the CMP there potentially, but I know my Giratina is fairly high ranked, so I didn't want to risk losing that CMP, wasting a lot of energy when now I can just overfarm, get 2 back-to-back Dragon Claws, and if they do let this one go now, then I can get a Dragon Claw against their Regidrago. If they would have shielded that, they would have thrown back-to-back against their Giratina. In comes that Regidrago. As I was saying, this Pokemon is going to take a lot from a Dragon Claw, but they will survive it, and because they're going to get a huge energy lead, honestly, it is a little bit uncomfortable. I could let them get a full farm down here. I'm expecting a shield at this point, but it's not like I really have a great way to tank this energy. I could bring in my Shadow Caesar, but I think a Dragon Energy would basically knock us out there. I'm going to hope, at least at this point, that our Shadow Caesar in the backline is going to have a little bit of use. I'm going to bring our Dusclops instead to tank the damage. Now come in Shadow Caesar, see what they have in the backline, and it's a Skeledirge. Not exactly what I wanted to see here. These Fire-type fast moves are shredding through my HP. We survive one, but the next one will knock us out. In comes that Night Slash, but we are 2 hexes away rather than just 1 away from our attack, which means Shadow Ball will come through. This will knock out our Dusclops. Unfortunately, not able to win this one, although I think there were ways to win that. It was just a very awkward game there. Very good energy management by our opponent. Next game, I'm going to see a Shadow Caesar up against a Shadow Alolan Sandslash. Battle of the Shadow Steel-type Pokemon, but having our fast move pressure shred through their HP is a very nice thing to see. We also notice that they are on Powder Snow rather than Shadow Claw, meaning our Dusclops is a lot better into this, but because Powder Snow is super effective into our Giratina anyway, it's good to get this Pokemon out of the way. In comes a Night Slash. Our opponent will likely go for the No-Shield, saying I have back-to-back, and they did not CMP us. They do let it go. In comes a Water-type Pokemon here. I can go for the Night Slash, and it is a little bit scary to see this. We have 2 Ghosts in the backline. This is a Ghost-type Fast Pressure Pokemon with Shadow Claw, so seeing this Pokemon here is a little bit scary. I try to catch the move on what I was almost certainly going to be expecting a Hydro Cannon there, But no, they overfarm. This could be a crunch or an ice beam. I have to shield now. They do go for a crunch, interestingly enough, and they bring in their Jellicent here as their final Pokemon. It's going to be a bit of a tricky game. We know they have Crunch, so my Dusclops has nowhere to hide here in this match. But because I have Shadow Sneak as well as maybe Dragon Claw here in just a second, we're not in that bad of a spot where Giratina is still getting some use out of it. We have a lot of energy as well on our Shadow Caesar. In comes that Dragon Claw, down goes their final shield, and Shadow Claw damage is shredding through their HP quite a bit as well. Shadow Ball will be thrown, likely knocking out our Shadow Giratina, but we can bring in our Shadow Caesar and go for the Night Slash. At this point, this will knock out the Jellicent. Gator does have a lot of energy in the backline, but that Feraligatr has been kind of stripped down a lot by Fast Pressure. Both the Bullet Punch damage as well as the Shadow Claw damage have put them into range where maybe even just a Shadow Punch from our Dusclops could be enough damage to knock him out. Hydro Cannon comes through, down goes our Shadow Caesar, but now Dusclops comes in, going for some Hex damage as well as a Shadow Punch as quickly as we can. And because this Gator had to use energy to knock out our Shadow Caesar, and they threw a Crunch against our Giratina earlier, I think at this point there's no way they're going to get to 2 charge attacks before we're able to Hex him down. Shadow Punch not quite enough to knock out this Pokemon, but we're able to survive that Crunch, go for one more Hex, knock out the Feraligatr, and take the win. GG there to our opponent. Next game, Shadow Caesar up against a Furret, a very neutral matchup here. Our Ghost types in the backline, though, very happy to avoid this Pokemon. The awkward thing, though, is Furret has a lot of fast pressure, just like Shadow Caesar, and because I know at this point they might shield my attack, I just want to go for the Trailblaze. Guarantee no matter what, we get an attack boost. I need the guaranteed fast pressure against this Pokemon. I hate doing it, but I have to shield up a Swift of all things. They did shield my Trailblaze at the very least. They do go for the Swift here. I've seen some Furrets crazy enough to go for a Trailblaze just to hope that I shield and get that attack boost themselves, but no, they're going for double Swift instead. Probably a smart play. They're going to get the guaranteed double shield from us. I can get the full farm down here, but our opponent at this point has done quite a bit of damage to us. I have a boosted Shadow Caesar. I'm going to go for the Night Slash here myself, try to get a shield on this bait. Let's see if they want to shield this. It could be a +1 Trailblaze. They realize that they do shield. In comes our next Night Slash, and likely this will end up doing quite a bit of damage, despite the fact it is only neutral and not the strongest move in the game. +1 Night Slash does put them down to about 50% HP. Giratina comes in here. We're able to go for the Shadow Claw damage and tank all of these Mud Bombs this Pokemon has. Our Dusclops as well in the backline, not too bad against this Pokemon. Our opponent is staying in here for just a second. I'm wondering what they have in the backline, and I guess there it is. There's the answer to that big question. It's a Cradilly, a Pokemon that our whole team has so much play into. I think that's why I really like this team here. Cradilly has almost nowhere to go against us. Our Ghost types in the backline resist the Acid Fast Swing Pressure, and we're able to do super effective damage with the Ice Punch. We do a lot of neutral damage with Giratina as well, and of course, Shadow Caesar in the lead, one of the best Pokemon into Cradilly, just in general. We're at the Shadow Punch plus Ice Punch combo. Ice Punch is going to be thrown first. Super effective damage. Let's see if we get a decent amount of damage here. I don't know if that's quite enough where a Shadow Punch would be enough, so I'm going to go for the Overfarm. Guarantee that I can go for that next Ice Punch. We can end up surviving this Rock Gym, go for the attack no matter what they do in this match. I know they could go for a catch here if they wanted on that Ufisk, but honestly, if they catch, an Ice Punch is still super effective there. We can now clear our debuff if we needed to, but I think at this point, our opponent is just going to be forced to throw energy against us. They're going to go for the Mud Bomb before my next Ice Punch. They couldn't afford that damage. Even at -2 attack, Ice Punch would have done quite a bit. We have so much energy on our Giratina. Dragon Claw already loaded. Shadow Claw damage as well, going to shred through their HP. Comes that Dragon Claw. Down goes their HP here. Shadow Claws enough to knock out that Ufisk before 2 more Mud Bombs would be reached. GG to our opponent. Alright, next game is a Primeape, a Pokemon that our 2 Ghost types in the backline you would think would have a good matchup into, but it actually is a bit more awkward than you'd imagine, saying the Rage Fist damage, as well as how spammy it is with Karate Chop, can end up doing some work against us. So I'm kind of fine seeing this here, just going for the Trailblaze, ramping up my own attack, and trying to whittle down this Pokemon as much as we can. Trailblaze is likely going to draw a shield here. Our opponent does end up shielding the attack, which is fine by me. Shadow Caesar, as it normally does, will go for the double shield, full farm down against this Pokemon. Rage Fist number 2 does come through, but one more Bullet Punch is enough to knock out that Primeape. And now we have some energy, but they come in with the most fun Pokemon that we could ever imagine, a Bastiodon. Now, don't ask me why people are building Bastiodons for Catch Cup. That is kind of crazy to me. But I guess this Pokemon's going to take a lot of damage from Trailblaze as well as these Bullet Punches. I do have 2 Pokemon that are kind of neutral to this in the backline, but it will be awkward to take this out, saying that my damage is not the most efficient into this thing. Hex as well as Shadow Claw won't do that much Fast Move Pressure, and Shadow Sneak and Shadow Punch, both not the most efficient charge attacks in the game, so I think Bastie's going to put in quite a bit more work than I'd like, but I think we are still in a decent spot where 2 Shadow Punches might be able to knock him out, maybe draw a shield. I don't know, it's going to be close here. Let's see if we can get it. Going for the Shadow Punch on CMP, guaranteeing as much Hex damage as we can. Will Shadow Punch draw a shield? Will it just be enough to knock out? Worst case scenario is they survive. Okay, they do shield. I guess that's good for us here. And what are they going to do? Stone Edge is not going to be quite enough here to knock us out. I'm going to swap out here. Our opponent, though, swaps out at the exact same time into their own Dusclops. A very awkward play for us to try to deal with. I know at this point it's going to be down to the wire if we're going to have enough energy to reach a Shadow Sneak plus a Dragon Claw here to knock them out. We're at the Shadow Sneak. Do I have the Shadow Sneak and Dragon Claw combo? I have to hope that we do, and I have to hope that it's enough as well to knock him out. I know that Giratina is not the most offensive Pokemon in the game, and Dusclops is a very bulky pick. We have the back-to-back moves. Dragon Claw, is this enough? Just barely it is. Down goes that Dusclops. In comes that Basti once again, but our Giratina is healthy enough to Shadow Claw down. That Basti was not able to beat us. Love to see it. GG there to them. All right, next game is a Unova Stunfisk lead. Not a great lead matchup for us to see, but our two Ghost types in the backline do have a decent amount of play into it, but this gets a little bit awkward. Galarian Moltres is a Pokemon that our team doesn't have a hard answer to. I think our Shadow Caesar at this point is our best way to deal with it, but it's more of just like a super quick neutral matchup than I would say a good matchup against that Pokemon. I'm going to go for the shield. I know at this point I should be able to get to the 3 Ice Punches in this matchup before we get fully Sucker Punched down, so I want to make sure at the very least we can get a shield advantage, or maybe even just knock this Pokemon out. Ice Punch, one of my easiest ways to deal with this Pokemon. In comes that next Ice Punch. Do we get another shield here? They might go for the double shield, and if they do, honestly, that is a bit uncomfortable for us, saying the double shield will now mean this Moltres has a lot of energy, a lot of faster pressure as well against us. I have to go for the shield myself, go for the farm down if I can, and hope whatever's in the back line we're going to have some play with our Giratina. In comes that Ufisk once again. Don't quite reach the Trailblaze before their attack, but I think we do survive. This Mud Bomb is not the most efficient move in the game. Shadow Caesar is squishy, but it's not that squishy. We're able to survive, go for that Trailblaze, but our opponent actually played this very smart. They did a bit of extra Sucker Punch damage against us before swapping out of that Moltres. That might mean we're in Thundershock downrange. Yeah, look at that. Just perfect range to get fully farmed down. That is a little bit awkward here, but Giratina should get a farm down against this Pokemon. How many Mud Bombs will he take? I'm hoping only one, but maybe they'll reach a second. That could be kind of bad for us if that is the case. Yeah, okay, they're already at the back-to-back here, meaning that our Giratina will be down to about half HP. Not sure there's a lot of Pokemon that we could actually win against in the backline. Lapras, I don't think so. I mean, they still have a bit of HP on that Moltres as well, so even if somehow I were able to knock this out, I think that Moltres with the Sucker Punch damage would be enough to KO us. Dragon Claw does not knock him out here. I mean, I don't even have Ancient Power to go for super effective damage against them. They go for an attack here. It's going to be a Sparkling Aria, but that doesn't really matter. No matter what it's going to be, we're in a pretty bad spot. They end up taking the win there. GG to them. All right, next game, it's going to be Shadow Caesar into Talonflame. All right, not a great lead matchup, but I do know that we have a bit of play in our backline against this Pokemon. We go for the Say Swap Dusclops, and that is not good news. We were met by a Mandibuzz, but the best thing about this is Mandy is not the hardest counter to us, at least Mandibuzz on Air Slash. We go for the No Shield on the Foul Play. You can see it doesn't quite go for the 2-shot against us, but it will add up quite a bit over time. I go for the Ice Punches myself, trying to get some super effective damage into them. Let's see if our opponent will shield. They opt to let that first one go. The second one going to come through. And unfortunately, I think they're at another foul play right now, so I can't get a third Ice Punch off before they're able to get their move through, but I think that's still fine. We've done quite a bit of damage to them, and while our Giratina is going to have a lot of work to do, I think I can get a nice farm down here with her Shadow Caesar. We'll take a charge attack here in the process, but Bullet Punch damage is going to shred through this Mandibuzz no matter what, and once this Pokemon's out of the way, I'm hoping that our Giratina is going to have a little bit more play, as well as our Shadow Caesar with this much energy. No shielding this, obviously, those Incinerates from that Talonflame would do just about as much damage as a single foul play, which is kind of crazy to say, but they end up swapping in to a Morpeko here. Now, funny story, when I saw this in the battle, I actually thought this was a Dedenne. My mind, for some reason, just saw a little mouse and thought it was Dedenne, but then I saw them throw a Psychic Fang, so I guess I no-shielded the move one way or another. Good stuff to see here, and yeah, just a Morpeko instead. Shadow Claw damage is resisted, but this Pokemon is so squishy. I can go for Dragon Claws here instead, and they actually end up shielding that first move. They're not buffing their defense. All they're doing is making it so their next moves do more damage against me. So I think we have a bit of play here. Psychic Fangs once again comes through. It will end up debuffing my defense a second time, but at this point, I need to keep Giratina alive at all costs. In comes our next Dragon Claw. This might not knock him out, but it might draw a shield, depending on how much they want to keep this Pokemon around. They do end up shielding me. Go for, I attempt the CMP sack swap. Doesn't quite work because I was on the one-turn swap there, but we're able to, at the very least, catch this move. They do knock us out. Unfortunately, Psychic Fangs is still enough to KO us, but because of that catch, there might still be a little bit of play for us here in this game. I go for the Dragon Claw, but they actually catch themselves on the Talonflame. Not quite sure if this is the play. I think Talonflame is one of their better Pokemon that they have left over, but because I can go for the back-to-back Dragon Claws, as long as this knocks them out, we should still be able to outpace that Morpeko to another Dragon Claw before 2 more attacks are reached. This might be a Giratina sweep here in the endgame. In comes that Dragon Claw. I mean, it did just about this much damage to the Talonflame. This should definitely knock out the Morpeko. In comes the Dragon Claw. Down goes the little mouse, and we're able to take the win. GG there to our opponent. All right, next game, Shadow Caesar in the mirror match, actually. Don't really love this matchup because it can be very boost reliant, where if I go for the boost, then that's very good for me. Oh, that was a nasty play. They went for the wait a turn, catch on Talonflame, and sneak and incinerate. That is a devastating play to try to deal with. Not quite sure how we're going to come back from this one. I mean, I guess at the very least, we can line up our Giratina into this, but man, that is such a devastating play. They go for a Brave Bird here. I'm going to try to get full Shadow Claw down. Our opponent survives on 1 HP. This game could not be going much worse at this point. Luckily, I do know it's a fly, but Man, this is still looking so bad. We take so much damage from that Talonflame. Very well played so far by our opponent. They come in with a Galarian Moltres as well. This is where having Ancient Power would be just a little bit nicer, but I go for the Dragon Claws. We can at least maybe get 3 off here. But man, this Pokemon is going to be so difficult for us to beat. Dragon Claw number 2 comes through. Our opponent does end up shielding that one at least. Dragon Claw number 3 just barely reached here. I guess my high rank Shadow Giratina is coming in clutch in this matchup. In comes that Dragon Claw. Down goes a bit more HP from this Moltres. They're in range where I think maybe even like a Shadow Punch or an Ice Punch could be enough to knock him out, but they still have so much energy on that Shadow Scizor, and this Pokemon at this point is shredding through our HP with these Sucker Punches. They go for the Brave Bird, they guarantee the shield, but then they actually make an interesting play. They swap into the Shadow Scizor, which I think at this point is a bit of a misplay on their part, because I can't survive a single Night Slash. I think going for a bit more fast move pressure against us with that Moltres could have been a bit better for them. I can see ways to maybe win this game at this point. I go for the Shadow Punch, I get the full farm down here. We can get their final shield with the Shadow Punch here, but I think at this point, maybe just fast move pressure could be the way to win this one. I don't think I get a second attack no matter what here this game, but I'm going to go into the swap out. Our Shadow Scizor does get farmed down, but if I can survive another Sucker Punch, one more Hex is all it's going to take, somehow taking the win there in that game. GG there to our opponent. Even with that Incinerate Sneak, we're able to win it. All right, another Galarian Moltres. Guys, where are these guys getting these Pokemon? I don't understand this. I guess I do kind of understand this. You could actually have bought Galarian Moltres earlier on in this season, so it does make a little bit of sense. That's, I guess, why people are using it all now. But because this Pokemon is so bad for our team, it's not something I like to see. We go for the Trailblaze instantly. They go for the Fly and the Sucker Punch damage, but then they bring in a Dusknoir of all things, a Pokemon which is a little bit scary to see up energy. But I am boosted. I can go for the Bullet Punch damage as well as a Night Slash. And because Dusclops here is a pretty bulky Pokemon, it's a non-Shadow Dusclops, or Dusknoir rather, as well, we should be able to go for the No-Shield here, go for a Shadow Punch, outpace them to this attack, and we should be in a pretty good spot. Shadow Punch does come through. Our opponent at this point is going to be in a range where a Shadow Punch is going to knock them out. I'm not going to be astonished down before I can get to another Shadow Punch, and we're going to go for the next move if I can. Our opponent is going to attempt a farm down, maybe a bit of a miscount by our opponent here, meaning that now I can knock them out. A lot of energy down the drain. That is very helpful. A big swing in momentum in this match. In comes a Cradily. They get a bit of an energy lead, but we were talking about it earlier. One of the best things about this team is we are not that weak to Cradily with this lineup. We do one-turn lag here on entry. It seems like this new update just makes it so one-turn lag is so likely here. I see they go for the Rock Tomb. I'm going to swap out, clear my debuff, as well as get a couple of Bullet Punches off. Might as well guarantee they're in range where a Dragon Claw could be enough to knock him out. They bring back in that Galarian Moltres. I saved energy just for this occasion. Make sure I can knock this thing out before they're able to get to another Fly. Down goes Moltres, and as long as I can reach 2 Dragon Claws here before our opponent is going to be able to do anything, we should be able to win this game. Dragon Claw comes through. We're able to put them pretty low, and at this point, while they do have one Rock Tomb, I'm pretty sure they're going to be another 6 more assets away from their next. We can shield this up, go for the Shadow Claw and the Dragon Claw combo here in just a second. They realize not much they can do, and we're able to take the win. Next game, Shadow Giratina. Let's see the moveset. It could be Shadow Claw, it could be Dragon Breath. Seen a lot more Shadow Claw users recently. Yeah, it looks like it is on Shadow Claw. The main reason I'm running Shadow Claw myself is there's a lot of fairy types here. Pokemon like Morpeko, Tinkaton, Dedenne. Did I say Morpeko? Dude, I don't even know. That's not a fairy type. That's just a little mouse. I made this mistake earlier. But no, Azumarill, I guess. You know, there's a lot of fairy types out there. So having Shadow Claw is generally a little bit better. I end up going for the Dusclops safe swap here. Our opponent is going for the Carbink counter swap. I don't like seeing this Pokemon either. The worst thing about this is Carbink is just such a boring Pokemon. No matter what I'm going to be able to do to this thing, it's going to be able to survive move after move. They know this Pokemon is going to be able to take all the damage here from Dusclops. I'm able to spam out moves pretty quickly, but they are building up a lot of energy. I'm going to bring in Shadow Scizor here, but they're a little bit slow on throwing a charge attack against us. What that means is I can actually shield this, guarantee that they only get 1 charge attack off. They go for the Rock Slide, but down goes their Carbink, a lot of energy down the drain, and in comes that Giratina once again. I think I might survive a Dragon Claw. We force either an Ancient Power or a Shadow Sneak out of them, or if they do get a bit greedy here, we can survive that. We can go for the Night Slash as well, and we see a Corviknight being brought in, a Pokemon that I know at this point we have play into, but it can be a little bit awkward. Super necessary boost. Those 2 extra Bullet Punches at like +2 damage, definitely going to make a big difference this game, surely. They go for the attack here on CMP. I'm thinking at this point, I don't know if I want to fully rely on our Giratina, so I'm going to shield this up, make it so they have to throw a second move to knock us out here on this Dusclops, and I know at this point that our Shadow Punches are going to start threatening quite a bit of damage against them. They do end up shielding. I can reach another Shadow Punch here in just a second, and our opponent at this point will likely still have to throw a charge attack to knock out our Dusclops. So we're still outside of Sand Attack down range. In comes that next Shadow Punch here, and our opponent actually making a bit of a different play than I was expecting. They end up bringing in the Shadow Giratina. They go for the Dragon Claw, which does knock us out, but I should be able to Shadow Claw this down. potentially come out of this with some energy for that Corviknight, and as long as we can reach a Shadow Sneak against that Corviknight before they're able to reach a Sky Attack, or an Iron Head, whatever the moveset might be, we should be able to win this game. In comes the Shadow Claw down. We're one Shadow Claw away from the next move. We're able to just barely outpace this Corviknight, go for the Shadow Sneak to knock them out, and Giratina able to barely close out the backline here. Super close game, but love beating the Carbink in the Catch Cup. All right, next game, a regular Marowak on the lead. A Pokemon you don't see too often here. Normally see the Shadow variant. I guess this trainer probably built this in this season, just wanted to try it out, which is, I guess, what you're supposed to do in Catch Cup. Don't see a lot of trainers doing that. A lot of the time, you just see the Carbink Bastiodon teams that you see just everywhere here. But either way, we're able to go for a Night Slash bait. We actually draw a shield here. And since these Mudsaps aren't doing quite as much damage, I think I can actually go for the shield here, pretty comfortably reach another Night Slash. And I do want to either draw their second shield, or honestly, I wouldn't mind just getting this damage off into them as well. I know it won't knock them out, but a couple more bullet punches will put them pretty low. They do end up double shielding here. They farm us all the way down, which is fine. I have my Dusclops, which can drain a lot of energy. And I'm hoping once this Pokemon is out of the way, maybe I have a bit more play with my Giratina. I know that this Pokemon's obviously not a Giratina counter, but this is a lot of fast pressure I am very happy to get out of the way with. And I do have a shield advantage now on our Giratina, so we'll see if that's going to be helpful. Bone Club comes through, does put us down into the yellow. I overfarm just a little bit more. I want to go for the Shadow Punch before they can knock us out. And I'm hoping there's no Ghost type answer in the backline. That would be kind of bad if we saw like a normal type Pokemon, especially one with Sucker Punch, not what you want to see. If I had Dragon Breath on Giratina, this would be a bit better for us, but I'm running Shadow Claw, which means I need to reach 2 Dragon Claws if I want to KO this thing, and I'm going to be real, I don't really know how I can win this game. I know they go for a Trailblaze, though, instantly, and since Giratina is able to resist all the charge attack pressure here, maybe it's not the end of the world, but these Sucker Punches are going to start adding up quite a bit. We go for the Dragon Claw. Our opponent is going to let it go. No shields obviously remaining on their side. We can just barely outpace them to the next charge move here, which is nice. I mean, down goes the Furret at the very least, but in the backline needs to be something that our 2 Ghost types have play into. What could it possibly be? It's going to be, okay, there's that Pokemon we keep on talking about here, the Cradilly, one of the best things we could see. And I know at this point that our Giratina can reach a Dragon Claw. I can go as well for Ice Punches with our Dusclops. And I'm not quite sure if I can reach another move here, so I want to make sure that I swap out before giving a huge farm down over. I can bring in our Dusclops, shield up this move, go for an Ice Punch, try to get to 2 Charge Attacks if possible. Ice Punch going to be thrown. Is this enough damage to get them into farm down range? I don't think it is after that debuff. Yeah, no, not quite. So I will either need a Shadow Punch here or potentially a Dragon Claw on our Giratina. They do just barely outpace us to the move. I am going to be knocked out by this Giratina. It's up to you. Can you survive the acid damage long enough? We one-turn lag, which is never great to see, but we can just barely outpace here and survive the acid fast move pressure. Get to that Dragon Claw, knocking out the Cradilly, and somehow coming back from the Furret in the backline. Love to see it. GG there to our opponent. And with that here, ending the day off with a nice 5-0 set. I wasn't honestly that sure about how much I'd like the Catch Cup here in this rotation. I know it's a very hit or miss rotation where sometimes you fight some fun teams, sometimes you fight the most annoying, people building the XL Pokemon. I mean, I shouldn't be complaining. I built a Dusclops myself, but I mean, I didn't build a Bastiodon at the very least. That is one thing that I have over some of these trainers. I saw so many Bastiodons today. It's kind of crazy. But no, I think this meta, it has a lot of fun that can be had with it, but it really depends on who you're fighting and how much people are tryharding, because if you're fighting just the most hard meta teams, then you might as well just be playing Open Great League. But yeah, in general, I don't like this meta too much, but this team, very good. If you want to try to climb, trying out a team similar to this would be a good way to go. I will thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.